Hi and welcome back to the Remington 700 build series. In today's episode we're going to go through pillar bedding of Boyds stock. Okay, so you can see in front of me here everything is torn down again. We have our bare Remington action. I left the pillar or the Picatinny rail on, so it's nice and easy to stand upside down. At the moment it's degreased. There's release agent all over the action here around here. The pillars themselves, these guys here are degreased. When you get these two guys, you get them in a pack of two, obviously. They have a little curve on the top that fits properly against the action, so it's more contact than just having the flat pillars. I don't know if that'd make a lot of real world difference, but that's what we got in the pack. When they come in the pack, they're something like, at the moment my rear pillar here is 1.275. When they come out of the pack, I believe these guys were somewhere like a 1.35 or 1.38 in length. The front one here is cut down an awful lot more. Now, what it tells you in the instructions is basically you build your gun the way it's meant to be built, and you torque it down. And once it's torqued down, you measure with your calipers from the bottom of the screw to the top of the screw, or where the action is on top of the screw. And you take that measurement, you remember, you write it down. You do the same thing, bottom of your screw here to the top of the action, be it at the rail or a block for mounting your scope, or just the bare action if you have no rail on there, and you write that down. You take it all apart, you rebuild your action on the table, and then you measure the distance. Once you have it all set up to the measurements you took earlier, you measure the distance in between the floor plate and the action, and that would be your distance for this guy here. And the same here, you measure distance between the floor plate and the action, and that'll give you your height for this guy here. Now, I tried that, and what I found, now this is probably different in all stocks, but I found that the Boyds stock has a little bow in the bottom of it, and that the screws on the floor plate, even though the floor plate is flat, there's a little recess, so when you do tighten it in, the floor plate creeps up into the stock on the both sides, and it twists itself a little bit. So when I did have them cut that length and fit it back in the stock, I noticed the pillars were very long, and fitting it in, it was very loose, very wobbly. It just, the stock itself wasn't really holding it much, and I knew even when I torqued it down, there wasn't much hold. So what I decided to do was I measured. You go from the top of the bedding down to where the floor plate ends, and you get a much more reliable reading, I was finding. And for example, on this back one, I'm after getting a reading of 1315. As you can see in the camera here, 1315. And I found that was much closer to the height of the pillar beds. So I did those measurements. I dropped it down from the top here and from the back, and I measured to the point at where the floor plate touches the wood, and I took that measurement, and then I cut these back to that measurement, and it was much tighter. Now, reading in the instructions that you can be 200 high or low, and it won't affect your bedding process whatsoever. So what I did is I took another I think it was 1.5 out of it. 0.15 out, and I ended up with the measurements which I have here. Now, this measurement won't be the same on everybody's gun. It's okay on mine, but everyone's will be slightly different. My measurement for the back pillar was 1.277 or 1.276, and that's the length I ended up getting. It'll be different on everybody's, but that's what worked at mine. And when I put that in with a dry fit and I clamped it down, just before I started getting torque, it just bit into the stock and just got a little bit of purchase, and there was no more rocking. It straight away felt much more solid than having just the screws in there. So then when I put down the 30 inch-pounds on the two screws, I had a really solid bite, and it wasn't really squeezing. So all I had to do was take the pressure off a little bit, and there was movement in it. So it's right where it needs to be. So that's the best way, I think, to get the size. And according to the paperwork, it seems to be leaving your pillars a slight bit short, 200 short, won't affect anything. You can leave it 200 long or 200 short. So that's how I ended up with my lengths. See, these guys here need to be degreased on the outside, which I'm just going to finish off here now. And the hardest part about all this, I found, was finding a drill bit that I could get to auto center on the stock, because those winged drill bits that have a big flat wedge on them, they're not going to center in there. If you have a drill press, perhaps, but I still wouldn't chance it. It says in the instructions to find a self-indexing drill bit or use a rasp. Now, I wasn't going to stand there all day and do a rasp. So what I did was I got this guy here. You can see it in the camera. It's a big drill bit. It is a 15mm drill bit, and it's a 1/2 inch shank on it. Now, this is the guy that did the work. You can see the holes in the action there. And this guy was the one that did the holes. Now, it just happens that I do have a big drill press with a 1/2 inch shank that did the job, so I was able to cut dead straight, and it wasn't off to any side or canted. So that was just very lucky that I had that. If you didn't have that, you could do it with a rasp. It would just take a bit longer. Or if you brought it to any machine shop, they could easily put a 15mm hole straight through there if they had the proper drill. If you have the self-indexing one and you have a 1/2 inch chuck on your drill, you could do it yourself pretty easy. It's not an exact science. It's just you just got to get the hole straight down the middle. Right. So what we're going to do now is these two pillars, as I said, are degreased. There's a release agent up inside the pillars themselves and on the action, because the agent or the bedding compound is going to seep up and it's going to go around a bit on the edges, but it shouldn't overflow like it would when you're doing your initial bedding. We're just going to find our screws. Now, because these are as curved on the bottom, we're going to put them in and we're going to lock them down so they're straight, and so that the bottom is getting 100% contact. So just give it a little jiggle back and over until it won't move anymore, and then we know the curves are sitting properly together. So we're just going to hold it down a little bit, just so they stay in place, and we're just going to give it a quick rub just to degrease them, because we don't want them to. I might be going over the top here, but I don't want the JB weld not to stick to these guys, but I don't want it to stick to anything else. Right. So at the moment, this is ready to go into stock, and the stock is ready to receive the JB weld. So what we're going to do, we're going to mix up a bit here, and we're going to line the two holes in the stock, and then we're going to line the two pillars. We're going to mate it all together. We're going to flip it upside down, and we're going to do a little bit on the bottom just to feed it up, so we get a good surface against the corners of the plate, and we're going to let it set. But for now, we're just going to knock out the pin on this little guy here. So this is the floor plate here. It's been all clean. I used the bright wheel just to flatten it out and take any of the bar, because the paint is very thick in places. So now it's nice and square. And what we're going to do now real quick is just mix up our JB weld. So just like before, this is a half and half operation. And we're using the standard stuff, so it's going to have to set overnight. It takes quite a while. I think it's 4 to 6 hours for a kind of a cure, but then you're not supposed to, you're not going to get a full harden until, I think it was 24, 48 hours. Okay, so we have this nice dark grey. So what we're going to do now, we're going to get it inside into the holes in the stock here. It's going to drip out, but there's not much we can do about that. So I'm just going to leave a piece of paper underneath it. Now, this is kind of awkward for me to see, but maybe you'll be able to see it properly. Actually, it's very awkward for me to see. I don't really mind how much overspill there is, because it's going to push back in with the bedding anyway, so it's not a big deal. I have a little bridge made there just to stop it flowing over into the trigger well, but it's not really needed. It's your choice if you use it or not. Okay, you can look in You can see if there's enough coating. You don't have to go crazy because we're going to coat the pillars too. Okay. You really can't see, but it's bedded all the way up inside there. I'm just going to push this up here. Now, just going to leave this aside a second. And we're going to cover these guys here. You can take your time. This stuff doesn't go off straight away. That's why I wouldn't use the instant harden stuff. This stuff gives you a little bit of time to think about your mistakes. And it doesn't flow very fast either, so it's not going to pour all over your table. We're not going to put it on top of the pillars yet. I'm going to do that, but I'm going to wait till we get it into the gun first. So we're going to go right down to the bottom. You can leave a little angle at the bottom, a little bit overflow because it's going pushed out against the bedding that's previously there anyway. Okay, so now these are all covered up in the JB Weld. It's not going to stick to the action because it's degreased. It's only going to stick to the aluminium pillars. What we're going to do is we're going to turn this guy upside down and mount it. Step out of the way here. Trying to see this all on camera makes it a little harder. Okay, so inside here, this is all degreased so that you can, so that the stuff will stick to it. But the wood itself, we don't want it to stick, is covered in release agent. So we're going to slide this in here. It's going to push quite a bit of it up, but that's totally fine. We're expecting that. This does flow, but it is very slow to do so. Now you're going to have to clean it out of your Allen holes. But there's no hurry yet. If it goes hard while that's in there, you'll have a very tough time taking it out. Okay, now this is the bit that has to be done quick. So, this guy here also has to be degreased, the two bottoms here, just so that we can get it off later on. So degrease the sides and the bottom. It's not going to come back too far, so you don't have to go all the way through it. Okay. Now, this is degreased. What we're going to do is we're going to take these two screws out nice and carefully. We don't want to lift the pillars off the action. And once they're out, we're just going to swap this in really quick, push it down on top, and screw it down. We're going to get a little bit of JB Weld into the pillar holes, but that's not too bad because the screws themselves are covered in release agent. And worst case scenario, if they're locked in there, you'll be able to thread them backwards out through it. And you can get a drill the exact same size and just clean out the middle. If that does happen. It probably will, but it's something that you have to go by ear. Now I'm going to degrease, I'm going to put release agent on my Allen key because I know it's going to get crap on it. Okay. There we go. That's one. There's the second one. Keep going until you hear it click back. There we go. Just take it out. We're going to get these really quick clean. It's not falling into the holes. The holes are perfect now, so I'm not going to move it. And we're just going to degrease it. And the best job for that is, I can't find it. Oh, WD-40. Okay, so that's one screw clean. I'm just going to clean the other one. Then we're just going to put some release agent on them and drop the whole thing in and torque it down to 30 inch-pounds per screw. And that's why getting one of those Wheeler wrenches is really nice, because they are cheap, and they really, once you have one, you're going to use it every time you touch your gun. It's brilliant, just to get everything to a torque that you know is going to work. All right, so here we go. This is all degreased, sides, top, and bottom. We're going to place it on top. Got a little bit of overflow there, but that's totally fine. Actually, I'm going to push it up inside it. It's going to come out anyway. Alright, short screw in the front, screw in the back. Now I'm getting overflow on the bottom, but that's totally fine. Once we have this in here, we'll take a quick look. Now we know that our barrel is straight and everything because this is pre-bedded. It's not going to slip into position wrong, because it cannot, it's impossible. That's the one good thing about pre-bedding before you pillar bed, is everything's going to be in line. You don't have to think about it. It's one less thing. And because normally I kind of do them at the same time, but this time I didn't. Okay, so we're going to torque these guys down, because if we torque it down now, when it settles, it's going to be at its non-stress point. When we release the stock, there'll be a little stress point on it. We don't really care. When we put it back at 30, we want it to be as settled as possible, and that's where we torque it down now, and not afterwards. And it's the exact opposite if you're just doing bedding. You don't torque it down. I'm going to go screw by screw, nice and easy, until we get the click we know. Is the front done? There's the back done. Alright, so that's the torsion we're going to leave here. And when we're done, we should be able to take out this floor plate, take out the action, see a nice clean finish. There should be a lovely clean finish around the pillar beds, because they are curved to the action. There should be, well, there might be a little bit of flow in, but not a whole lot. And we can actually pick it up now because it is torqued in. Let's do a quick clean off the bottom. Just make sure everything is square. I'm looking at it here, everything is perfect. I don't have to touch anything because it is pre-bedded. You can see the overflow here at the back, which we're going to take care of now. And it really doesn't matter too much. It's probably best to leave it drying sitting up, because there'll be a little bit of pull up this way with the weight of the barrel, which will be taken up anyway by the recoil lug and the previous bedding. So it doesn't really matter which way you leave it to completely dry up. In fact, I will leave it this way. Once I do this clean up here and get rid of all the overflow. So if you like this video, and you like this type of video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe. It'll help me out, and it'll give you a notification every time I upload a video. This build series is a long way to go yet. After this video, we have many more videos to come. The next one is we're going into an MDT LSS-XL chassis, which is a lot harder to say. And we have a lot of cool parts coming from that, so we're going to see how good we can get this chassis with pillar bedded, and free float, compared to a completely a V-block style aluminium chassis with an adjustable buttstock. Because the big letdown on these guys at the moment is the lack of an adjustable buttstock where you have to use a rear pack. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.